It's that time, folks. Time to talk Canes here at the Voice of College Football on our Miami channel. We come your way each and every, it's Wednesday night and Thursday night. And we got a special guest tonight. No stranger to the show, no stranger to this channel. He certainly helped in our success here at the Voice of College Football, but filling in for us tonight. Appreciate having Paul from Scoop on the U here to break down some Miami football with us. How you doing tonight, Paul?
Mark, I'm doing great. Started off my morning with amazing news, so that's always good. I think my camera's a little blurry now, but we'll get it fixed. It's on my end. But it's funny because I was about to do a show at 6 p.m. with Leon Searcy, you know, great Miami Hurricane football player, NFL veteran, Pro Bowler, and with Brandon Merriweather. Of course, we do our weekly show. He had to reschedule Leon, so we were not able to do that. And then you messaged me right after, and you know what? It worked out great, and I'm always glad to join the Mark Rogers YouTube show. So it really is a pleasure.
Appreciate it. It certainly worked out for us. So we got Paul here for the next hour or however long he can stick around to answer your comments and questions right here at the Voice of College Football. And so we will dive into it with recruiting, transfer portal, and of course, when I say recruiting, we can look at the 22 class, but also look ahead to 23 and see what Paul's got going on his channel, The Scoop on the U. And of course, leave your comments and questions right there in the live chat and we will get to it. Mario Cristobal, my goodness. The day before National Signing Day, at one point, the class was in the 60s. It was 38th the day before National Signing Day. It rises another 20-some spots up to, I think, it closing at 15, and even more impressive than that, as you well know, the sixth highest class, if you take the player rating per player rating. So a high quality caliber of recruits and signees for Mario Cristobal. So, you know, Manny Diaz wasn't failing on the recruiting trail. Maybe this particular class he wasn't coming through, but he had pulled in a decent class last year for sure. What is the difference with Mario?
You know, Mark, first off, that's a very interesting, question. What is the difference with Mario Cristobal? I had on Andrew Ivins this past week. One of the questions I asked him, what's the sense? Because he covers state of Florida recruiting. What's the sense of local recruits in South Florida and the state of Florida around the new coaching staff change and Mario Cristobal taking the head coaching title? And, he said, I don't mean to exactly quote him if this is what he said, but he did say, Manny Diaz showed a personality that maybe wasn't true. It wasn't real, and it rubbed off the wrong way with recruits. For example, I've interviewed 5-star Jaden Wayne. He's actually in the state of Washington, for example. And there was a time, class of 2023, the coaching staff wasn't really keeping much in contact with him. Now he's class of 2023, defensive end, 5-star. With the new coaching staff at the University of Miami, Coach Salavea personally told him, and my co-host Ross can confirm this, speaks with Jaden Wayne every single day. He's the number one priority at defensive end, is Jaden Wayne. They're making a hard priority. I just interviewed Ruben Bain. He had 29 sacks, Mark. I don't care what state you play in. That's pretty damn impressive. 29 sacks at Miami Central Senior High School. He's one of the top defensive linemen in the nation, 4-star recruit. They got his brother on staff as an assistant role from Illinois to join the staff. They just hired another assistant coach who previously was an offensive coordinator at Gulliver Prep Senior High School. I believe he was spending time at Duke University. Jalen Brown, 4-star wide receiver, attends Gulliver Prep down in Pinecrest. They're going full court prep for the recruits they want to get. And even Shamar Stewart said, why he picked Texas A&M at the end. If Mario Cristobal would have spent more time, he was only there for 2 months, I'm sure we could have reeled him in as well. To bring the University of Miami's recruiting class from 76 ranked by 24/7 Sports in a 2-month time span all the way to ranked 15th in the nation, that's insanely impressive, Mark. I mean, it's really scary what Mario Cristobal can do in a full year of recruiting, winning football games, and then replicating that the next recruiting cycle.
Yeah, it's mighty impressive. And before we really dive into some of these targets coming up here in 2023, let people know what you've got available over there on your channel, because once again, it's impressive. You're going after some really heavy hitters when it comes to both on the field and then people that cover the sport. So what can we look forward to on your channel?
Yeah, I mean, we have our weekly recruiting show. We just had Ruben Bain Jr. Apologies, Ruben Bain on. Yesterday, we had Samson Okunlola, a 5-star recruit as well. The other day, we're basically bringing on the top recruits in the nation, 4-star, 5-star recruits, or even 3-star that are being targeted by the University of Miami. We're having them on a weekly basis. We usually are having 4 recruits a show. We'll probably break it down to groups of 4. We'll do it 2 times a week, every single week this recruiting off season, just to keep you guys in the mix of what's going on. Players are in contact with the staff and what's their itinerary look the rest of the way. I have a weekly show with Brandon Merriweather. The expectation is we're going to bring on Miami Hurricanes greats such as Leon Searcy, for example, was supposed to come on this week. We'll probably get him on in a couple weeks. I know John Beeson has confirmed to come on next week on our weekly show. So the ball is moving with my Miami Hurricanes greats coming on the Scoop and Merriweather show as well. I want to get Phil Steele back on my channel for another show, a live show. I think that would be outstanding. Might have to do Zoom, but we're trying hard, Mark, to just network our way and continuously build and stay level-headed on the way. And I hope anyone listening wants to check out my channel, The Scoop on the U. You're more than welcome to.
Absolutely. Growing by leaps and bounds, doing some killer stuff over there. Good stuff. And we're glad to have Paul tonight here on the Voice of College Football. Falcon Rex, appreciate you being here. And thank you so much for the contribution. Sean Rounds is certainly glad to see Paul here tonight. My guy, Scoop. And there was a comment here from Gary Lewis, just looking ahead to not necessarily the recruiting trail, but the transfer portal. And we saw this last year, Paul. What basically happened was guys held back after we saw an influx of the transfer portal right after the season, because guys obviously responding to where they stood at the end of the season. And then they got into spring ball and it kind of cooled off and calmed down, just like it is right now. We're about 2 to 3 weeks away from spring ball for most teams across the nation. Then once guys kind of get their feel for, okay, where they sit on the depth chart, what they looked like, compare themselves to other players at their position, maybe even sit down with their position coach and get a real hard look at where they stand. There we see another surge into the transfer portal at the end of spring practice. So Gary's looking ahead to that to see what you would like to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's the thing. Mario Cristobal, during his press conference when National Signing Day was over, he said they were still going to evaluate the linebacker position unit. They got their defensive coordinator in Kevin Steele, who focuses in on, he specializes in linebacker play. Now that he's on board, they're probably going to come together and evaluate linebackers across the country in the transfer portal. Harold Perkins, he did not pick the University of Miami. I'm sure they wanted him like every other school in America, a big-time playmaker. So now they're going to hit the portal, see who they can evaluate, and go from there. My guess is as good as anyone's. I don't know who we're going to target. Every single day we're seeing new players enter the transfer portal. Have to be patient. When you find the right player, go after him. Full court press. We have one of the top staffs in the nation. I'm sure it'll be very easy for any player, whether in high school or who's entering the transfer portal, to come play at the University of Miami now.
Hey, Paul, to kind of go along with the question that's posted here about the position coaches, since there's been so much movement there and a lot of Miami fans were getting a little anxious there for several weeks before Christmas, after Christmas, when those coordinator positions were not being filled. And then, bam, Mario hit just about 2 weeks ago with Josh Gattis, with Kevin Steele, starting with those hires and then going through the staff. Take your time to go through and just kind of size up your impression of these hires.
The position coaches, in my opinion, at the end of the day, they are very important compared to the players, because at the end of the day, development is key, Mark. The backbone to your college football program is your coaching staff. Look at the old Miami Hurricanes football teams that had so much success winning national titles. Look at their coaching staffs. It was quite impressive. Look at the University of Alabama and their coaching staffs. All of their coordinators, assistant coaches, they're now head coaches at major programs. It's insane to think about it. If you have a strong coaching staff, that's going to be a formula for development, and your players will succeed at the collegiate football level. If you provide the appropriate coaching staff who can develop the players you have, and then once you're done with the players that you inherited from the previous coaching staff, you'll go out and evaluate and get the high school football players or transfer portal players that you want and think will fit well in your college football program, and you're just going to get better and better every single season.
In particular with Josh Gattis, how did that hire hit you? Were you surprised?
Mark, I was completely surprised. I remember there was like a couple comments. This is this was way, way, way before the OC talks. I mean, when people were saying, who are we going to get for OC? And someone would comment Josh Gattis. I'm like, we're not getting Josh Gattis. You can forget about that. If we do get Josh Gattis, I will thoroughly apologize. And I'm here, Mark. I apologize to the individual I told that we were not getting Josh Gattis. It was a pipe dream. I woke up the next morning. It was fairly late because I was up late the night before. And I had to really rub my eyes a little bit when I saw the news that the Miami Hurricanes had hired Josh Gattis as offensive coordinator. We just got the Broyles Award winner. This is the top assistant coach in the nation, Mark. He took Michigan, who did not have a good quarterback by any means with McNamara, all the way to the college football playoffs. He was the co-OC at Alabama as well. This was a phenomenal hire. I honestly think this was 10 out of 10. I'm excited to see what he can do at the University of Miami with one of the best returning quarterbacks in the nation in Tyler Van Dyke. And the plus side of all of this is that Josh Gattis gets to focus on wide receiver play because that's what he's been specializing throughout his career. Offensive line has been an issue at the University of Miami, but your head coach is a former offensive lineman. That's what he specializes in. And his offensive line coach, Coach Mirabal, he's one of the best offensive line coaches in the nation. So this could be a real recipe for success, Mark, with the amount of playmakers we have. I think it could be a real special season. I know it's very early, but I could be a little bit excited. But this was a home run hire, Mark. I don't know how else to explain it to anyone how great of a hire this was for the program.
Yeah, we certainly went live as soon as we possibly could, took as many comments and calls. And my one evaluation of the situation was that made sense to me that could make this an even better hire than maybe some Miami fans had imagined that aren't connected to Michigan football and don't watch Michigan football. But Josh Gattis was able to basically take Jim Harbaugh's offense and not redesign it because Jim Harbaugh wouldn't want that. Right. It was still run oriented. It was still a pro style, but they were able to deviate from that. They were able to run a lot of creative sets, a lot of creative plays off of that. So they stayed very much with that Michigan identity but add a lot to it, a lot of creative plays, a lot of misdirection, a lot of stuff that they weren't doing before. And now you've got a coach in Mario Cristobal who we know loves the offensive line, wants the offensive line to own this line of scrimmage and to be a focal point of this offense and leading the offense. So I see where Josh Gattis could say, hey, this is what we did at Michigan, kind of apply a lot of those concepts because he's going from a run first, tough-minded, we want to beat you into the ground style offense, but was creative with it. And then he can move this to Miami and say, we've got a similar approach here where I got a head coach I'm working for who wants to own people, dominate people at the point of attack, but still, we obviously got to use our athletes in space. So it could be a good thing.
Mark, no doubt about it, Josh Gattis runs a ground and pound attack. Wide receivers are going to have to create separation when throwing the football. I'm excited because this is what he specializes in wide receiver play. I think we have a good, solid core of young wide receivers who a lot of them are speedsters. Frank Latson, I think we've identified him as our outside wide receiver, which is what we needed this upcoming season. But we have a lot of playmakers at wide receiver. We have the best quarterback in the nation to a certain extent coming back. People can debate CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, down at Alabama. I really think if everything clicks, our O-line is going to get better. Our wide receivers excel. And Frank Latson becomes the transfer portal player, that 5-star recruit out of South Dade High School that we all expected. With Tyler Van Dyke excelling from this past season, with the development of quarterbacks coach Frank Ponce helping him, this could be really a nice recipe for success, Mark. I really do believe that.
Paul, what really hit you on National Signing Day in terms of really hit home that, Mario brought this thing home. He completed the task. He got us to the finish line. I'm a little surprised. Maybe he got whether it was Trevante Citizen or was there a certain signing that hit you in terms of, man, this guy he's really getting it done.
Trevante Citizen. Credit to Coach Kevin Smith, former running backs coach at Ole Miss and FAU, under Lane Kiffin as head coach. This is a running back out of the state of Louisiana, 4-star recruit, I believe. Picked Miami over programs such as LSU, such as Auburn, Ole Miss. I mean, honestly, I honestly did not think Miami was in the running. I didn't really care to go in depth about Trevante Citizen because I just didn't think we were in the mix. I don't think anyone did either. And to land him on National Signing Day, huge shout out goes to Coach Smith. I can go a few months back about Jaleel Skinner, 5-star tight end we get out of IMG Academy again, who I thought he was going to go to Alabama. A lot of people did as well, what Coach Field did to reel in. Jaleel Skinner was huge as well. But I think, Jaleel Skinner, Trevante Citizens, two football players that, ideally on paper, the predictions, it seemed like they were going to go to an SEC program. And you pull them to the University of Miami. And Jaleel Skinner, I believe he's, background-wise, he's from South Carolina. He transferred to IMG. And Trevante Citizens from the state of Louisiana. So, to get out-of-state football players and for them to come and play at the University of Miami and commit to the program with a new coaching staff only 2 months in, I mean, that's amazing.
Paul, Scoop on the U. Get on over there right here on YouTube. Just look up Scoop on the U, correct? That's probably the best way to find it.
Yep. The Scoop on the U. If you guys can subscribe to my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. That would mean the world to me. So thank you.
The spring game has been set for April 16th on a Saturday. Spring practice starts Monday, March 7th. So we are less than a month away, just about 3 weeks away from spring practice. Think about that.
Pretty exciting.
It is exciting. And unfortunately, it's difficult to get a strong read and what you can be sure to be an accurate read on spring practice. So basically, you're trying to see as much video as you can on social media that gets out. There are reports that come out every day to a certain extent, but they're a bit skewed. They're crafted by the school, so it's going to look a certain way. But there are certain people, obviously, that are on the field and watching practice. So the media can only typically see 15 or 20 minutes, and that's a lot of stretching and a lot of nothing. So they don't really they more or less get the feel for what's going on by just talking to people more so than what they can actually see. So, we got to kind of measure how much we can take out of spring practice until it's all said and done. And you can watch the spring game and, of course, take a little bit more from that. But, what are you really looking for during this spring session that's going to last, let's see, about 5 weeks total, that is going to make you feel better about this football team headed toward 22?
Yeah, I think you said it best, Mark. You're only going to see so much until the spring game. You're going to see small little clips of, wide receivers running routes, quarterbacks throwing passes, like 10, 15 seconds long. You're going to hear all over social media, oh, this player looks so much better. Wow, incredible. Look at the development. You're not going to know anything until the first game of the regular season. Your preview is the spring game. Well, if I were to look at something, it's development of linebacker play, who's going to step up. edge rusher wise, defensive end, we need someone to step up. I hope it's Jahvari Harvey. He's a veteran player at the University of Miami. I think his physical attributes are through the roof. But after him, I think it's a big drop. Cyrus Moss is an up-and-comer. Maybe he'll make a freshman impact. He's going to be a phenomenal football player one day. I don't know if it's going to be instantly in spring practice, game 1 of the regular season, but I think I'm going to be looking at our edge rushers, linebacker play primarily. I'm not really worried about everyone else because I think our interior defensive linemen are going to do fine. I think Leonard Taylor is going to excel this upcoming season, but I think those 2 position units primarily. Cornerback play is going to be interesting as well. How do these cornerbacks develop? If they do improve with our new defensive backs coach, who I'm really excited about, that we got from Georgia, Jamil Adade. I think he's going to be a phenomenal contribution to the University of Miami football program, specifically at a recruiting standpoint. He doesn't miss at all.
Folks, while you're headed on over to the Scoop on the U to subscribe to Paul's channel, of course, we hope you're subscribed here as well. Hit the like button. So when you hit the like button, that's not to make us feel good. So I don't care how many likes there are for my own ego. That's a YouTube algorithm. So basically, if you got a video and it's got 10,000 views and it's got 100 likes, YouTube is not going to push it nearly as much as if you got 1,000 likes. This is the way it is. They want to see the engagement. They want to see that people are stepping up and really thought enough of the video to like the video. And that's the least you could do. Just hit a click. And every time you head on over to Paul's channel, like the videos as well. We would appreciate it on Paul's channel and right here at the Voice of College Football as well. All right. A lot of people that I talked to, and I don't remember what your take was at the time, but before we had seen Tyler Van Dyke play, which I got to say, I was amazed. I thought it worked out really well for him that he steps in against Central Connecticut State so he could get that game work against the worst opponent on the schedule, and then boom, right into the Virginia game. His first 2 games were not stellar. I think we saw the potential there. And then by the 3rd game, he was off and running, and it was like 350, 380 a game, 3 and 4 touchdown passes every game. But before we ever saw Tyler Van Dyke, most Miami guys told me that it was a close call, but they actually favored most likely Jake Garcia. Now we got a situation where how does Tyler Van Dyke possibly lose this job? It's his, as you just mentioned, one of the top 3 or 4 players in the nation, and quarterback coming back. What are your thoughts about where Jake Garcia stands in all this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if there was a preseason quarterback ranking, Tyler Van Dyke has to be named in the top 5 quarterbacks returning. I mean, he was given an opportunity. I remember they were both going at it against, I think, the program Central Connecticut State. Who knows? It was some random team in Connecticut. They were both sharing drives, and in the spring game, Jake Garcia, in my opinion, I thought he did look better than Tyler Van Dyke. I think Jake Garcia is a phenomenal quarterback. Unfortunately, Jake Garcia got injured. Tyler Van Dyke took advantage of an opportunity and he ran with it. I think it's been 7 straight games or more where Tyler Van Dyke has thrown for over 300 passing yards. He's earned the starting job. He's considered one of the top quarterbacks in the nation returning. He'll probably get drafted if everything goes well the next upcoming season. He's got a cannon of an arm. He has great pocket presence. He's mobile enough to get you a first down. Tyler Van Dyke was the leader the second half of the season. When De'Aaron King went down with his injury, Tyler Van Dyke stood up to the plate, made plays for the University of Miami, and got this team a lot of wins with Charleston Rambo by his side. Okay? Tyler Van Dyke is the leader of your football team. You got to roll with him next season. I hate even bringing that up, but if there is a quarterback battle and Tyler Van Dyke is just looking awful every practice, and Jake Garcia is just looking amazing, they'll probably go with Jake Garcia. But this is literally Tyler Van Dyke's job to lose. He really has to try to lose this if there even is a quarterback battle. I mean, I'm expecting Tyler Van Dyke to be the starting quarterback at the University of Miami, throw for 30-plus touchdowns, over 3,000 passing yards, and, get drafted this upcoming season. I think that's the expectation. I think that's what a lot of NFL scouts as well see in Tyler Van Dyke.
Hey, Paul, talking about expectations, because of everything that Mario's already accomplished in 2 months, plus the schedule being what it is, and it's another schedule that if you really just size up the talent, Miami should be winning 10 plus games.
Yeah.
So we've said this many times in the past. And then if you put in addition to that, okay, other than Mark Richt, and I say this all the time, just put him to the side just because of things that occurred afterwards that I think give us both in terms of his health, but also what decisions that he made, which weren't the best for himself or Miami. Put him aside. Obviously, that guy's going to be in the College Football Hall of Fame. So he's proven. But other than that, nobody's achieved at Miami, and nobody achieved post Butch Davis. Basically, no Miami coach ever won before they were at Miami or after Miami on the Power 5 level. None of them succeeded anywhere. Rick was, again, we'll put him aside. Okay, now you got a coach. He's the first one we've seen in over 20 years, other than Rick, who's proven, okay, 3 Pac-12 championship game appearances, 2 titles, a Rose Bowl. He's won. So he knows what he's doing. How do you gauge what the expectation should be this year?
This is Mario Cristobal's first year at the University of Miami. I know people want instant success, but Rome wasn't built overnight. I think ideally with the schedule at hand, your 2 toughest opponents are going to be Clemson and Texas A&M. I think those are going to be your toughest opponents. I don't know who makes these schedules, but we're playing Texas A&M away. This upcoming season, we got Clemson away as well. I think we're going to split one. I don't think we're going to beat both teams. I think we're going to go 1-1. If we go 0-2, that's a possibility as well. So let's say we split one because I think we really need to beat Clemson for the sake of the ACC and to, gain some ground. We need to win the ACC this upcoming season. So we can't afford to lose to Clemson, in my opinion. So let's say we beat Clemson, we lose to Texas A&M or vice versa. I think ideally Miami will probably drop another conference game. I don't know which one. It could be any. I know we go to the state of Virginia twice. I don't know who we play during the week. Those Thursday night games, if you're the ranked opponent, the other team's the underdog, it's always a tricky, close game. I don't know, for whatever reason, those week games always set up the favorite to lose. It's always a close game. So I think ideally you're looking at Miami going 10-2, 9-3, 8-4. If everything's clicking, I can see 11-1, but I don't think we're going to go undefeated this year. I think 11-1 is a little bit of a reach. So I say 10-2, 9-3 should be your appropriate range for Mario Cristobal's first year at the University of Miami. I think worst case scenario, 8-4.
All right. We've got Kane999 here. Appreciate you supporting us. Thank you so much for that super sticker. All right. Out of this class, and I got to think that most of these guys are on campus. I'm going to pull up the class here. But I think the count was something like 11 early enrollees. So these guys are obviously on campus lifting weights. 6 early enrollees. The class was, of course, only 14 total, 5 transfers coming in as well. They're going to have a jump, those 6 guys, because they're on campus, they're with the team, go through winter workouts, and of course spring practice is huge. We could go right to the top of the board, and that's the guy that's supposed to be the most talented when you look at Nigel Kelly or Cyrus Moss, I should say, in terms of that. But who are you looking to make? And the guy that comes to mind when I ask this question is Leonard Taylor, because here's a guy that right out of the gate wasn't on the field much and never really saw the field that much last season. But in those isolated spurts where he got some reps, he was noticeable. He was already a force. Who do you think out of this batch of players could be a force right away?
Jaleel Skinner. Honestly, I think he can jump a lot of the tight ends we have right now. He's like 6'5", over 220 pounds. He's got physical attributes you can't teach. I think he's a mismatch in a lot of football games if you plug him in. He doesn't look like a true freshman. We have a lot of tight ends at the University of Miami. Larry Hodges just transferred, but I honestly think Jaleel Skinner can compete for a starting role day one just off of his physical measurements. He's a mismatch in a lot of football games. I've said this name earlier. I love Nigel Lee Kelly. I think he's going to be an outstanding player. But Cyrus Moss, these are attributes you cannot teach. He's 6'6", 6'7", okay, over 230 pounds. He's going to put on some weight. Look out. I think he's going to be another special player as well. He comes from Bishop Gorman Senior High School. They run their program like St. Thomas Aquinas runs their football program, like it's a college football team. They come prepared to play at the collegiate level. It's a much easier transition due to the competition they play. I think Jaleel Skinner and Cyrus Moss are going to be two names to look out for heavily that can make an early impact at the University of Miami. Those are my two favorite players that I can think top of my head.
Good stuff. And then a little bit later, of course, once we get into the summer, Trevante Citizen, Chris Graves, Markeith Williams, Isaiah Horton, Jaden Harris, Ahmad Moten, Matthew McCoy, and Inez Cooper, who was a surprise late signing for the Canes as well. And that group of six, that six-pack that's already on campus: Cyrus Moss, Nigel Lake Kelly, Jaleel Skinner, Kamari Rogers, a great corner from Mississippi, Wesley Besaint, and Ja'Curry Brown, who, of course, is going to develop hopefully into that starting quarterback in a couple of years.
I will say this, Mark. Wesley Besaint has a golden opportunity to get a lot of playing time early on. Our linebacker core is not strong whatsoever at all. I don't like the personnel we have. I've been saying it for quite a while. Prove me wrong. Maybe they'll develop nicely, but I think Wesley Besaint can really make an early impact.
Yeah, the running back room is obviously pretty well stacked at this point, considering one Donald Chaney, Jalen Knighton, and then Parrish, the transfer coming in from Ole Miss, and now Trevante Citizen. Be interesting to see how they mix and match guys with different skill sets, different body types, what the distribution of carries is going to be, who's catching the ball out of the backfield and getting some targets.
Mark, I was just thinking about that throughout this show. You got Jalen Knighton, Don Chaney, Henry Parrish, Thad Brown, Cody Brown. I feel like I'm missing a name right now. You basically have 5 running backs, and all of them, besides Trevante Citizen, because he was in high school, played at the collegiate level and got snaps the past season. In my opinion, I think Don Chaney is going to lead your running back group. I think they brought in Henry Parrish for a reason. I think they liked Henry Parrish a lot. So he's going to get a lot of playing time. I think Jalen Knighton, I would hope he gets involved because I think he's a Power 5 football player. But how do you mix in all these running backs? How do you give them all snaps? Because you can't. You're not going to be able to distribute the football to 4 running backs in a game. So I think you're going to have your 2 primary running backs. You're going to have your 3rd running back. And then the 4th one is going to be on the outside looking in. So it's going to be very interesting. I think you may see a couple players who you thought would be making a bigger impact at the University of Miami. I don't know who. This is on the staff, really. I think you're going to see some players that you thought were going to get a lot of carries during their time, and a new staff came in, and maybe they just don't fit the offense they want to run. I don't know who those guys are, but I think Don Chaney is going to get a lot of playing time, and I think Henry Parrish as well. I'm curious how Knighton fits in this offense with Josh Gattis and how much they utilize him, because bringing in Henry Parrish, they're going to play him. They brought him in. They're not going to sit him on the bench. It's the reality of the situation.
You mentioned those 2 dates on the season that look like, the probable losses. Not probable losses, but those are the 2 that come to mind because they're on the road and they're the 2 most talented teams on the schedule. Texas A&M in week 3, Clemson a little bit later in the season. But my goodness, Texas A&M, they will be a favorite. That's going to be a daunting task, probably a night game. Kyle Field, 105,000+ people. And my goodness, not that these guys are going to be an immediate impact on this season, but what kind of recruiting class they brought in, arguably the best in the history of college football this past off season. But it's not going to be inconceivable that Miami wins that game. They can go to Texas A&M and win that game. Let's say they do. The two first games are, of course, those are wins, and then Middle Tennessee State after Texas A&M. So it sets up really nice going into a bye, and then you dive into ACC play. But all these teams aren't as good as Miami. It's just wow. There is going to be some serious buzz, some serious excitement if Miami goes to Texas A&M and wins, and people start to look at that schedule that's coming up. Uh, this your show, your platform, mine, people are going to be going nuts.
I think that will be a. So here's the thing, Mark, and I'm curious if you know this answer because like I'm trying to think about this one. When was the last time Miami beat a P5 non-conference opponent on the road? I believe it was in 2006 or 2007 when they went and played Texas A&M in College Station. I could be wrong. Maybe the chat can help me out too. The last time Miami beat a non-conference Power 5 opponent on the road. I think it was Texas A&M in 07. It's been a long time. And that bowl games don't count. Neutral sites don't count. An away game, non-conference Power 5 opponent.
So who was the non-conference game? Oh, that was Appalachian State. I was trying to think. Okay, they started 10-0 in 17, so they played App State. They didn't play a Power 5 non-conference, I don't think. Yeah, we can check you right here. One of my go-tos is the historical scores list right here. I can pull up whatever team and it's got the full lineup of all the games, but I'm not coming up with any. They had a big win against Ohio State in 2011, but that was at
Could have been
home.
it. Oh, it was at home. Okay. Respect.
Yeah, they lost to him in Columbus in 2010. Yeah, that's a great question. Let's see. So the big non-conference games, of course, this past season, it was Michigan State, but that was at home and they lost. The Alabama game, neutral site, of course. 2020, they didn't play out of conference games. Well, they played UAB. 2019, the Florida game was neutral site. 2018, LSU was neutral site. 2017, that App State game that I just mentioned.
G5.
No, that actually was a Toledo game that
G5.
they played. It was the year before they played App State.
Yeah.
Those were still, G5 games. 2015, they played Nebraska at home, won that game 36-33. And of course, the year before, they went to Nebraska and lost. 2013, the Florida game, they won that. Wasn't that in Orlando?
Florida game, what year?
2013, they beat Florida 21-16.
That was in Miami.
Okay, yeah, I remember watching that game. Yep. Okay. This game I do not remember. 2012, they lost to Kansas State 52-13 at home.
I remember that game.
Yikes.
Yeah, I think Duke Johnson was a freshman that game. He returned a kickoff for a touchdown. Manhattan, Kansas. Stan Silio did a rant that day.
Oh, at Kansas. Yeah. Lost to Notre Dame in Chicago 41-3. So that was not a good non-conference season. 2011 at Maryland, lost 32-24.
Has to be that A&M game, I think.
I think you nailed it because I'm not coming up with any.
I think it was 07. I don't remember what year exactly. It was in that range. 07 away. I mean, around there, around that time.
At Texas A&M, 08, 41-23 Miami. There it is.
That was it. I mean, it's been 14 years since we've won a non-conference away Power 5 game.
Yeah, that is a drought to get out of the way for sure. Mike, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Appreciate that so much. If Paul's got anything on this, he can certainly cut loose, but we did address this earlier in the show. So keep in mind, folks, when you got comments and questions to make, that many times we've already addressed that topic or those players. So as soon as the video posts and we're done with the live portion here, of course, it's going to be available for you to watch what you missed. So we did talk transfer portal. And Mike, the only thing I'll say here is, believe me, after spring practice, when those players know where they stand They've had 5 weeks of practice, 15 sessions of practice. They've talked to their position coaches. You're going to see a flood of transfers hit the portal just like last season. So if you've got anything to add to that, Paul, but again, we had that conversation earlier.
I heavily believe Miami will take a linebacker out of the transfer portal that fits a 4-3 scheme. Coach Steele likes to run at a 4-2-5 scheme at times. I think they're no longer going to see 4-2-5 scheme be implemented. He likes to utilize the nickelback position as well when running a 4-2-5. So look out for a linebacker to be taken and evaluated.
Okay, I am not finding any other comments or questions that we need to take on here. So, unless you see something, Paul, or something else you want to take off on, we can wrap it up right now.
It's depressing. We haven't really had a big win in 17 years. I mean, people talk about the Notre Dame win in 2017, but reality was, I mean, Notre Dame really wasn't that good of a team, and we lost in the Orange Bowl, lost like 3 straight games after that to Pittsburgh, Clemson, to Wisconsin, and then the following season was just a nightmare, and we got embarrassed by LSU. So, no, we got to win. We got to win an ACC title. We have to win the Orange Bowl. Not going to say it's going to happen year one, but I think that's the first step in getting back in the right direction.
Yeah, if you just flat out look at whether home or away or neutral site, what the big non-conference game has been, and of course, again, there were 2 last year. Those were 2 L's. The 2019 was Florida, L. LSU embarrassed to open 2018, as you just mentioned. 2017, there really wasn't that kind of game. Toledo was the best. Notre Dame. Yeah, that's right. Notre Dame later in the season. That's right. The 41-8 blowout you just mentioned. That Notre Dame team finished 10-3. So that's really the last big win. Non-conference was 2017. And we'd have to dive back quite a ways before that. That Nebraska team that Miami beat in 2015 at home 36-33 was only a 6-7 Nebraska team as well.
Yeah. I mean, we got to get back rolling to win some big games on ESPN against primetime, matchups that everyone's watching.
Paul Scoop on the U. Just look it up. The Scoop on the U right here on YouTube. We encourage you to head on over there. He has some amazing interviews, insight into Miami football. He goes to the source, whether that's in the media or the players or their families, the recruits, to discuss Miami football and to get their perspective on whether they're already part of the Miami family or making that consideration. So, Paul, for anybody that heads on over there, what are some of the I know you touched on this at the start of the live stream, but some of your highlights in recent weeks?
Yeah, no, I do a weekly show with Brandon Merriweather. Probably the best number 19s ever played at the University of Miami. NFL great, Miami Hurricane great. Next week we plan on having John Beeson, Leon Searcy, 2 NFL veterans. Calais Campbell is in the works as well. The show just keeps on going, and every week we've had at least 1 5-star recruit and tons of 4-star recruits as well. We plan on being a strong source of recruiting and getting you the best one-on-one insight when interviewing these recruits. And, the future's looking bright. Can't wait to just be more engaged with Miami Hurricane greats and, potential Miami Hurricanes and the recruits we're interviewing. So thank you to everyone who's hit subscribed and has supported the channel.
Paul, you're welcome here anytime, and we appreciate you stopping by and making time for us tonight.
It's always a pleasure, Mark. You are the voice of college football, so it really is an honor to be back on the Mark Rogers Show.
Folks, we'll see everybody back here next Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, next Wednesday at 7 Eastern.